There are things in life that happen once. You're born once, you die once, and in between, if you're lucky, you get a handful of highly important, maybe even sacred assignments. Some will last your entire lifetime. Some of these assignments will be brief, they will last a season, they'll be fleeting, beautiful, awful. They can run the gamut of human experience and human emotion. Some last only long enough to really change who you are as a person. Parenting a newborn baby, for example, is a tour of duty. If you've never done it, I highly encourage that you do it. Serving on the board of a director, serving on the board of directors of an organization can also be a form of a tour of duty. Caring for an aging loved one, an aging parent, is a tour of duty. Building a business can be a tour of duty. Marriage has many, many tours of duty inside of it, as do friendships. Real lasting friendships are going to have many different ebbs and flows and ups and downs and seasons and tours of duty. There are certainly seasons of life that are going to ask a lot more of you than others will. They're going to ask a lot more time. They're going to demand more attention, more energy, more money, more patience, more humility, more sacrifice. And then eventually, the page turns, the season changes because, like everything in life, nothing is forever. I'm not being cynical. That's just a real thing. That's one of the great organizing truths of human life and the human experience itself. Seconds pass, minutes pass, days, weeks, months, quarters, years pass. But you know, of course, the seasons return, but never exactly the same. Some winters are more brutal. Some springs are more beautiful. Some summers you wish would last forever, and some you could be really done with midway through. Springs come again, but not last year's spring. Your kids grow. They don't grow backwards. They just go one way. Opportunities come, they go, they move on. One day your strength is here, must be maintained or it fades. Human life, human existence, our lives are an exercise in impermanence. Your role is not permanent. Your office is not permanent. Your authority is not permanent. Which brings me to something that's also not supposed to be permanent. And that thing is public service. Public service. You know, being a politician, an elected official, somebody that we tapped to represent us in our government. There's a real person, a Roman named Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus was a farmer. And at one point in time, Rome was in trouble. Its army was trapped. The Republic needed someone to act decisively. And at that moment, Cincinnatus was appointed dictator, given extraordinary power and called away from his farm and his plow. He accepted the assignment. He went and saved Rome. And then, after roughly 16 days, he gave the power back and returned to his farm. Can you get your brain around that? Is it possible for you or me to really grasp and understand that? Not because it's a complicated thing, but because that level of virtue is completely foreign to us. Power was handed to him and he handed it back. Woo, buddy, crazy. Cincinnati, you probably never heard his name before. I hadn't. It's because he didn't build a brand around it. He didn't spend 40 years fundraising off of it, or 50 years or 60 years fundraising off of it. He did not turn an emergency into a permanent identity. He did not let a crisis go to waste. He did not confuse being needed for being entitled. What he did was he served his tour of duty. And then he went home after just 16 days. There was a problem. He brought the solution. He went home. Now, that story mattered deeply to our American imagination. You know who understood it? George Washington. George Washington understood that. After the Revolutionary War, he could have become something very different. They wanted him to become king. He had the popularity, obviously, still enjoys it. He had the military reputation. He had the loyalty of men with guns that just kicked the crap out of the British. Sorry, not sorry. And that is usually how republics die. When one person, in this example, a man, becomes indispensable, then it becomes permanent. Then it becomes untouchable. But what did Washington do? He resigned his commission. Later, after 2 terms as president, he stepped away again. And that decision may have been one of the most important acts of leadership in American history. Not because he took power, because he surrendered it. And that's the part that we forget. It's kind of lost on us. We're very impressed by people who win. We love it. I love it. I love winners. I appreciate when people do their best and they come up short, but I sure do love a good winner. We're less impressed by people who leave, step away, because they're not always in our face, but leaving and doing it well may be one of the highest forms of civic virtue. Think about Cincinnatus again. That's an awesome, it's not a story, it's an awesome recollection or recount of what really happened. The founders of our great country were not naive about human nature. They did not believe that good intentions were enough, because they're not. Good intentions are never enough. They never have been and they never will be. They did not build a system on the assumption that politicians would remain humble, honest, and selfless forever. How many of those do you know? How many politicians can you point to right now that you believe are humble, honest, and selfless? Humble, honest, and selfless. I could think of a handful. So, understanding that, our founders built checks and balances because they understood appetite. They understood ambition. They understood vanity, and they most certainly understood factions, which they viewed as one of the most dangerous potential elements that could infect our political system. They understood that once a person gets that taste of power in their mouth, he or she may confuse him or herself with the actual public good. And that's danger right there. Danger is not only tyranny that wears a crown, kings, no kings. The danger is also tyranny that sits on committees, that wields influence, that can raise a bunch of money. It's tyranny with a microphone, tyranny with that rich list of donors, tyranny with that security detail, tyranny with a lifetime office and a net worth that somehow grows faster than that salary should allow. It's amazing. And it's important to be careful. Not every long-serving public official is correct, is corrupt. Very few are correct. Not all of them are corrupt. Certainly experience matters. Understanding how it all works, institutional knowledge is of value, and certainly being competent, that matters greatly. Our republic doesn't benefit from ignorance any more than it benefits from arrogance. But there is a difference between service and possession. There's a difference between being entrusted with an office and treating that office as if it's your birthright or your property or just whatever. There's a big difference between serving the public and becoming a professional occupant of public life. And that's where the rot begins. When politics becomes a career in the worst sense, what changes? Well, lots of things, but certainly the incentives change. So we stop asking ourselves the questions like, what does my country need from me? And becomes, what do I need to do to stay right here? Because I like this. This is pretty comfortable for me. So what do I need to do? And that one change, that poisons everything. Say what must be said? Maybe. Unless it hurts the next election. How's that polling? How is this issue polling? What about angering the donors? Oof. Tell people the truth? Maybe. Unless the truth costs power. I mean, there's some of these politicians on both sides, on all sides, all of them, that they clearly will say whatever they think that they need to say, even though it's blatantly not true. It's crazy. They're not going to do anything that they think will cost them power. And so the public servant becomes something else entirely. A performer, a caricature, a brand, a permanent candidate, a king without the honesty of wearing that crown. So that's why some of the language you hear today just it rings hollow. We must protect our democracy. Okay. Well, what do you mean? Do you mean the constitutional order? Do you mean ordered liberty? Do you mean equal protection under the law? Do you mean a peaceful transfer of power? Do you mean the system itself? Or do you mean your preferred outcomes? Because those are not the same things. And this is where that whole no kings movement is confusing to me because it sounds good. Super American. We don't want kings. Yeah, totally. Yep, agreed. Totally. But if you say no kings while defending politicians who have spent decades accumulating power, influence, privilege, and wealth inside our system, then what exactly are you protesting? A king or someone else's king? Because a republic cannot survive that kind of selective outrage. If we're against kings, then we must be against the king impulse wherever it shows up. Right, left, old, young, charismatic, boring, beloved, hated. The king impulse, the desire to stay too long, take too much, answer too little, and treat the office they're occupying as an extension of themselves, that is what must be resisted. And not just in Washington, in ourselves too. Because every one of us has a little monarch inside of us. That part of us that wants control without accountability, that wants recognition without sacrifice, authority without the burden of it, status without any service. And our founders, they knew this. The best religious traditions certainly know this. The best philosophers know this. The human being is capable of greatness, but also corruption. You can't have one without the other. We're fallen people. So, question is, can we find perfect leaders? We cannot. The question is, can we build expectations, systems, and customs that remind imperfect people to leave before the office becomes their identity? That is the wisdom of a tour of duty. You serve, you give what is required, you spend your most valuable resources generously, you do the work. Then you make room for someone else. There's immense dignity in that. There's beautiful humility in that. There's absolute freedom in that. And there is brilliant strength in that. Because nothing is forever. Not your title, not your office, not your platform, not your influence, not the season. You are not here to hold on forever. You are here to do your part while it is yours to do, and then hand it off cleanly. It's true in politics, business, family, leadership, and life. So the question is not, how do I keep this forever? The question is, how do I serve this well while it has been entrusted to me? That's the difference between a servant and a ruler, between Cincinnatus and the careerist, between public trust and public and private kingdom, between a republic and a throne room. We have to demand more, that people take these assignments seriously, that we don't mistake the assignment for ourselves, that we serve our tour of duty, we do the work, we spend what must be spent, we give what must be given, and when the time comes, have the virtue to finally go home. So you answer the call as Cincinnatus did, you go to Rome, you do what must be done, then you go back home, take up your plow once again, serve your tour of duty, and demand that our elected officials do the same. All of them, not just the ones you like, all of them. We must do our part by doing our best.